Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
Oh shoot! I forgot. I forgot to play the intro. Very good morning to you. Welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee on Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim. We're brought to you most Sundays by Shorebet Coffee, Amwager, Pleasant Acres Stallions, Tampa Bay Downs, celebrating a century of racing, Spendthrift Farm, and like I've been talking about the last couple of weeks, Pace Points. I'm going to talk about it again, so we can have this kind of collection of tutorials. And we're going to talk about a stakes race yesterday at Oaklawn Park, opening weekend there. I'll be there in a couple of weeks. I'm very much looking forward to it. I was at Oaklawn 15 years ago for the 2010 Arkansas Derby when Line of David won. And that was exciting as I look up the chart here, because why was that exciting? I didn't have Line of David. Oh, Super Saver. That's right. He finished second. Dublin. Bango. Noble's Promise. Who did I bet on? I probably bet on. I don't know. I bet a lot of chalk back in the day. I'd probably bet on Noble's Promise. Probably. Just look at it, it's 2-1. Yeah, that's probably who I bet on. Anyway, I did not have Line of David, but I remember I had just started this blog I was living in Shreveport, Louisiana, working for a local TV station there, and I was living with the sports director at the time. I was renting a bedroom in his townhouse. And I started this blog, this horse racing blog in this bedroom. And I was reading the old paceadvantage.com forums, going to the Louisiana Downs every Friday night, watching the simulcast, going there every Saturday, every Sunday, and losing and losing and losing and losing. But I was getting, I grew up around, Monmouth Park, going to Saratoga on the East Coast, grew up in New Jersey. But it was probably like 2010 when I really first started to try to learn how to be better at it. I started writing this blog, and it was the worst. It was the worst name. I set up a $10 GoDaddy website, toteboardmath.com. Now just write blog articles, give out picks. And I remember driving, it was probably about a 6-hour drive, maybe, from Shreveport to Hot Springs. I drove up there and I was talking to some couple outside of Oaklawn the morning of the Arkansas Derby, and I gave him some pick. It's like my best bet of the day. It's like the 3-horse in like the third race or something. And I was like, if this horse wins, I'll mail you a t-shirt. And the horse finished dead last. The horse did not run good at all. But for some reason I liked it. Horse did not run good at all. And then that blog died off a couple of years after that. But I remember standing there on the rail, and I had this camera. It looked like it looked like a cell phone, right? It was probably about this big. I mean, maybe even a little bit smaller. The quality of that camera was so bad, but it could take video, and it had like a little USB port that you could just pop right into the laptop and just upload the video, and I could post the videos the on my website. And I thought that was like the coolest thing, 15, 16 years ago now, that it was all just right there. You could just dump it right on the website. And yeah, drove 6 hours just to get some crummy video, make some losing bets, and then drove all the way home. So I'm excited to go back to Oaklawn in a couple of weeks. Hopefully have a more profitable experience, and hopefully take a little bit more higher quality video as well. So there you go. That's my one Oaklawn story. I'm hoping to maybe next weekend. I've got a good buddy who is um, almost an everyday player at Oaklawn. So I'm hoping I'm going to text him after this, and I'll reach out to him. Maybe we can get him on to talk about some Oaklawn stuff and give you guys some handicapping tips, some trends, some jockeys that he likes to pay attention to, some trainers that he likes to pay attention to, and we'll see if we can put something together for you guys next week to kind of help you throughout the meet there, since it does run for a good 5 months or so. All right, so let's dive in. Let's show you the pace points from yesterday for this Ring the Bell Stakes. And we'll see, we'll talk about the pace points, and then we'll talk about how the early part of this race set up, because Skelly, got the worst of it early, didn't break well. You'd have thought that this horse would have been a little bit more forward. Didn't break well, got kind of stuck in a little bit of traffic, and really within the first 20 seconds of the race, his day was just about over. So I think that maybe shifted a little bit of the dynamics, but I think this is a good example of how, again, this isn't necessarily this isn't a pick sheet. This is, again, it's another tool, another factor to consider in your normal handicapping process to allow us the opportunity to think about how the race is going to set up. And if we can better visualize how the race is going to look early and how the race is going to look late, it'll give us a better picture, a fuller description of the race, so then we can make a more informed decision of where we want to place our wagering dollars, whether that's on a win bet, an exacta bet, or in our multi-race wagers. So take a look here. Our first fraction rank. Again, this is how we think the early pace of the race is going to set up. So based on our collective efforts, myself, John, and nice guy Eddie C, ranking these horses early in the race based on a variety of the factors that we've talked about before. Again, if you go to pastthewire.com/pace points, there is a link at the top of the page with a video that explains all of the different factors that we put into coming up with this rank for both early and late. So the early rank is basically our vision of how we see the early part of this race shaping up, who we see being forward, who we see being not so forward. And this doesn't necessarily mean that Skelly's going to be in first. Second ID is going to be second. Roll on Big Joe is going to be third at, that first and second point of call. That's not exactly what this means. It's, more or less kind of which horses we think are going to be setting the early pace or being up, applying pressure on the early pace. And as we watch the early parts of the race, that's exactly what happened. So I'm going to take this down. I am going to show the early part of the race through RTN, which is a really good subscription that I have. I use it all the time, and we'll watch it, and then I'll pause it, and then we'll bring the pace points back in as they're turning for home, and we'll go from there.
We're ready to go in the Ring the Bell Stakes, and all right.
So
Skelly
Skelly
last
4.
from the gate. He's moving up. Oh, he had to steady there when behind horses. So right now, he's stalking the pace.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, he had to steady there when behind horses. So right now, he's stalking
adjust
the
the volume.
Skelly as they head down the
So he didn't have a great break, right? And then the rider just gets on the skis here as he tries to squeeze into traffic, and his race is just about done. Right there, like race is over for him. So what happened here with the 6 roll on Big Joe, as all of this stuff is happening behind him? We're going to rewind it here. So the 6 here, right here in the red, is just the beneficiary of just like an ideal trip. Like the 2 backs out of it, and then for whatever reason, the 1 is just like, oh, maybe I don't want to be on the lead here. Just isn't fast enough, and just gets out of there. And the 6 is just out there all by himself. And as we've seen time and time again, when decent horses are out there by themselves, they just kind of keep on going. And I think this was like a perfect example of, just getting an ideal setup and a perfect trip for this 6. And who is on the 6? Julian Leparoux, who we know is very skilled and talented, and wasn't concerned about all the stuff that was happening behind him, and just saw the lead, took the lead, and just kept on going. And I'm going to pull the pace points back up because we didn't have this horse ranked super high on the late fraction scale, but in a sense, that didn't really matter the way the early part of the race set up, because this horse had such an ideal trip going into that far turn and coming off that turn, right? Like, I'll add this back. Like, look how much clearance this horse has, right? You fly off the turn, and you've got a 1.5 length, 2 length lead here over Banishing, who we did have ranked rather high on the late pace, rank. I'll pull that back up here so we can see. Right, Banishing was 3. Tejano Twist was 1, which we'll see he does, run on okay, but I think he left himself a little bit too much to do. I feel like that horse has run, a million times. It might be at the back end of, oh, yeah, yeah, 43 career starts. might be at the back end of his really stellar career. I mean, geez, 1.6 million in career earnings. That's pretty quality. Um, but Tejano Twist did run on, make a little bit of a late push, but probably left himself too much to do. Roll on Big Joe flew off the turn and was able to put a little bit of distance on the field, and I think that's what carried him on to victory. Banishing wasn't able to close that gap. So again, like I said at the beginning, this isn't necessarily like, okay, just because in the last fraction rank, Tejano Twist is ranked 1, and Ghost of Midnight is ranked 2, and Banishing is ranked 3. That doesn't mean that those horses are going to finish 1, 2, and 3, right? We have to factor in all of the other intangibles, all of the other handicapping processes that you would normally do to arrive at a final decision. And of course, maybe you can work in some process to decide a horse is going to break slow, or get into traffic, or whatever. Um, but I think for Roll On Big Joe, getting an ideal trip like that while also having being ranked decently high um, on that first fraction rank, set him up for some decent success, regardless of having, or despite having a weaker late fraction rank. So again, as we continue to roll these out and as we continue to talk about it more, a lot of these, the way to use the first fraction rank with the last fraction rank, or one as opposed to the other, I think will become a lot more clear as we begin to have a lot more of these shows and we talk about it a lot more. So I'll flip the replay back on, and we'll see Tejano Twist put in a little bit of a late rally, but kind of flatten. Banishing, a little bit of a late rally, but just couldn't get there. And again, like we see, Roll On Big Joe, flies off the turn and puts a little bit of a distance between himself and the field, given that pretty dream trip. And I think that's what allowed him to roll on to victory. We'll continue watching here.
Roll On Big Joe, 3/16 to go. Opening up the lead, he's 2 ahead.
Right, so
Banishing
Tejano Twist
second,
is
Tejano
3
Twist
here.
Skelly
He's
third and fourth. But Roll On
making
Big
up a
Joe
little bit of
with
ground.
a 16th to go.
Banishing,
By 2.5.
you know,
Roll On Big
never
Joe
really
keeps
closed the
rolling on
gap.
here in a hot sprint.
Tejano Twist,
Roll On Big Joe, the winner of the Ring the Bell
probably made up the
Stakes.
most
Second
ground.
home Banishing, Tejano Twist third, and second ID was fourth.
And again, as we watch the stretch run here, the 3 making up the most ground. I mean, Skelly, the 4 is tired and beaten, given the tough trip early on. And Roll On Big Joe, just the beneficiary of
Roll On Big Joe was first.
having
Second. 3 Tejano Twist.
an ideal early part of the race, which was the
stand by until the results are declared official.
Was the beneficiary of that late. So I think, as I put these back up, as we get more familiar with this data product, and as we show it to you more, obviously, and as you purchase it more and you use it more, you'll see how it works for you and what you like to use it for. But I do think that this was a good example of what we can see, for this first fraction rank, right? Because all of these horses that it had ranked high, that we had ranked high early, were up there early, right? And the 6 set the early pace along with the 1, and the 1 just kind of backed out of there once things got to be a little bit too fast. And based on the morning line odds, just looking at this sheet, and based on whatever PPs that you're using, DRF, Brisnet, I'm sure you could have determined as well that this horse probably did not have much staying power, right? So you could, oh, we're still playing. You could have determined that Roll On Big Joe was going to, have a decent trip, or, perhaps a rather good setup to come off the turn and be in a legitimate spot to win. And then it's up to you to decide, okay, will he be able to hang on to that lead over the late closing ability of Banishing or a Tejano Twist? Right. And of course, I know it's easy for me to sit here and say that, why did we watch the replay and the race is already wrapped up? Right. But again, just getting you to think a little bit more critically as we dive into the numbers, and perhaps see what they might be telling us. And again, it's all part of the handicapping process, right? If we want to learn and get better and see how we can improve our game, right? We need to be going back and watching replays. We need to be going back and watching replays along with our past performances, and seeing what our process is. What's the data telling us? What did we miss? What did we miss that maybe we need to make a note about next time? Like, for example, like Skelly, next time, make a note, in your virtual stable. Super tough trip, broke horribly, got pinched, jockey lost all chance, backed out of it, flattened in stretch. Consider next time. Like, those would be my notes. Right? Maybe because the number will probably come back a little slower, maybe there might be a little bit of value in there for you. I don't know. Depends on where he comes back next. But I think you get the point. And I think we need to be looking at replays along with our PPs. And you can look at it along with the pace points too, and see, like, this little lesson in, what is this data telling us, so we can get a better understanding of how to use it. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and I'll wrap it up. I've got a couple of things that I want to say, and then we'll say farewell for another week as we roll on towards the Christmas season. We'll be right back. right, welcome back. Sunday morning coffee, past the wire TV. I am Big Race Jim, maybe Big Hair Jim today. As some people will probably drop in the comments, I'm due for a haircut. Shorebet Coffee, Am Wager, Pleasant Acres, Tampa Bay Downs, celebrating a century of racing, Spendthrift Farm, all of our great sponsors that help us put these shows on. Hopefully you enjoyed the Kentucky Derby Radar show. The Remsen was was really good last week. I was talking about some great memories at Aqueduct. Always fun stuff. Always fun stuff at the Big A. And I want to wrap up the show by saying, if you're not reading John Stetton's column on pastthewire.com, you're doing yourself a massive, massive disservice. It's great to see John start writing again more consistently. He probably knows more about the racing industry than anybody. The ins, the outs, the ups, the downs. And we talk often enough, obviously, but reading his articles, I learn a ton by reading all of the stuff that he's been writing more recently over the last couple of weeks. So just a little plug for John and the website and all the good stuff that's been going on over there. Just tremendous information, tremendous insight, and just kind of like peeling back the curtain on the industry and how interesting it all is, right? I mean, we like it, right? If you're watching this, you like horse racing and you want to see the game grow and thrive. And, let's be honest, it's not growing. Maybe some big days are thriving, but overall it's you could argue that it's not. And I think John is doing a good job of writing about it in a way that will ensure that the game can continue to thrive. And, we know people are reading it, which is good. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody listening to this is reading it as well. So shout out to John and all his hard work for building the Past the Wire website, building all the content and writing things the way he sees it. Tremendous stuff. And I'd encourage you guys to check out all the stuff that he's been writing over the last couple of weeks. Super insightful, super fun, really good, high quality stuff. All right, we'll leave it there. Have a great rest of your week. We'll check back in with you guys next week. Like I said, I'm going to try and get somebody on to talk about Oaklawn, give us some players' insight into the meet, so you guys can play with some confidence. We'll see if we can nail that down. But thanks again. Sunday morning coffee, Past the Wire TV. I am Big Race Jim, and we will see you guys next week.
Go.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.